A number of years ago now, I made a series of videos on the space shuttle. I noticed that people had done the Apollo mission, but no one really focused on the shuttle. And in that research, I came up with this photo pretty much straight away, and I was just gobsmacked. I thought, how come no one's ever talked about this before? I mean, look at those little struts at the front that are supposed to hold something that accelerates to ungodly speeds. I think one video I was watching, it was over 15,000 miles an hour. Loosely said by the guy at a clip of 15, It was certainly in the thousands, and it went from 1 to 2 to 5 to 8 to, on it went. And you're thinking, this is what is holding it together. Now, a lot of people come on, oh, look at the one at the back. Yeah, the one at the back looks a bit more decent, I'll give you that, but that's not the point. The main thrust is coming at the front nose. Anyone who's ridden a push bike, driven a car down the road, get in a car and do 100 miles an hour and stick your head out the window and tell me there's not some wind hitting you in the face. See, 100 miles an hour, cyclone rating. 100 kilometres probably is more a cyclone, anything above that, up to 100 miles an hour, sure. Well, you need more than this. In fact, this isn't good enough for even in areas that weren't cyclone. Anywhere, building-wise, that front would have to be supported just like the rear, and in fact it'd need one in the centre just to stand there, let alone in, say, northern Australia or southern USA where there is hurricane or cyclone or typhoon in Asia, building codes. That nowhere near they need extra support again. And that's only for, as I said, 100 kilometre, 130, 40, 50, whatever kilometre an hour winds you can think of. That's the building code. So the thing just doesn't rip off and fly away. And so what it's held at the back, it would break in half with enough wind velocity. Just that those, you know what a cyclone is like, or a typhoon or a hurricane. Very destructive. Now imagine accelerating this, just think of 1,000 miles an hour. Would you be happy sitting there knowing that's what's holding you? And you notice that it's 2 in the bottom one, but only comes to 1. It's got a Wonderbolt. We'll check the bolt out in this assembly, and I'll tell you, it's just a bolt. It'd have to have frames all in here, and this would have to be framed too, to where it attaches. This is just on the wall, it'd just pull the wall out. You know that yourself. Even when you build on your house, you don't attach to the middle of the wall, you have to have pillars. So they have to have pillar assemblies, and it would certainly. This is like a snake tongue. That's exactly what they're saying here. This is for the wise to see, but I seem to have a lot of people follow my channel that are not very wise. Because as soon as I saw this, and I showed a couple of friends of mine who are electrical engineer sort of guy minded, worked on high-rise buildings, where he put installed air conditioning type units, etc., and that sort of work at high altitude, sort of on the buildings and things like that. He knows a lot about that type of rigging. Like he's worked on an oil refinery over in New Zealand, for instance, doing that. He's a master type fitter and stuff, real danger man. He laughed his head off. He said that wouldn't be savvy at all. The weight of this and that. Now let me show you the big prawn. Now this really just shows you in one picture. This thing is going to be lighter than the shuttle. I've stood underneath this thing. It's a big shell thing, but it's hollow, as you can imagine. And you can see the frameage that they've got to just hold this here, because the area it's at, Ballina, on the northern coast of New South Wales, Australia, gets those sort of winds occasionally. And you wouldn't want this toppling over and killing people. So look how it's held. It doesn't fly through the air at 1,000 miles an hour. It just sits there. That's all it does. So you're trying to tell me that this thing, which is supposed to go to these amazing clips of up to 15, it could be more, I can't remember, who cares? 1,000 will do me. This isn't good enough for 200 miles an hour. This isn't good for 50 miles an hour. This isn't comparative to this good enough just to stand there. So anyone who can't see that really is a fool. And that's just all there is to it. If you'd shown me this when I was 8 years old, I would have looked at it and gone, nah, That's not right. They'd have to have something better there. They'd have to look at least like this, you'd imagine. And one in the middle. Stop some sag sort of happening. I mean, these things have to be built pretty light, just like aeroplanes. Otherwise they couldn't fly, could they now? Anyway, as you know, none of this is flying. This is a cartoon image. So you should realise that anyway. So why am I even making this video? I don't know. Except for all the silly comments on my space shuttle video. Look, and even the crowds you watch on these events, these rocket launch crowds, it's done inside in a studio with this blue look. Look at the blue look with no clouds. Look at this whole sky bit here. No clouds. No stars, no clouds, and NASA speaking with forked tongue. The old forked tongue, as Maxwell Smart would say. Terrible, terrible, terrible. And look at the piddly little stuff coming out of the jets. Also, as I've always said, this thing would be badly balanced. It would tend to go on the direction that this is on. And we know all this is a fraud anyway. Rockets don't work, folks. Go and check out my rocket fraud. Look at the amount of fire coming out of here. No, just look at it. It's just Thunderbirds a go. And these little pipsqueaks coming out of the other one. Right. And these things control themselves by moving around slightly. Gimbal control. For the gimbal. That's all that's for. Look at the forked tongue. Not good enough for cyclone rating. Look at the big prawn and wake the F up.